this, through this scenario. I'm going to start with you, Nausea.
I think this is such a big issue for young people at school, and this is so important that parents actually understand what's going on in order to be able to deal with the situation. Firstly, the whole issue of the attraction to the opposite gender, something that Simon was talking about. This is something now that's going to come in. Imagine these kids who've been going to junior school, and now suddenly they come into senior school. One of the biggest things that you will begin to notice, or they will certainly notice with their friends, is the fact that they're now suddenly noticing the opposite gender. They will now begin to see the people that they were once playing with in the playgrounds are now entering into this new sort of social interaction where they're having girlfriends, boyfriends. And you have to understand from their perspective, they're seeing this, they're hearing about this. And therefore, when they hear it to the level that they are hearing it, it can become normalized in their minds. They will begin to think that this is actually the sort of path that maybe they should be entering into. And the fact of the matter is that, don't forget, they have the natural instinct. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obviously created this within men and women, that they will feel that attraction. But obviously there are guidelines related to how that relationship is supposed to flourish. And the way that they see it in society, that's not the way. It's not the way. And what you are not also dealing with is the fact that the popular culture, the values have changed in society. The way that young people the way that they behave in society has changed. The expectations on them, they've all changed. And they are being part and parcel, they're kind of being pushed towards those kind of ways of existence. The fact that there may be pressures there to be, why aren't you going out? If you're not going out with the opposite sex, there's something wrong with you. If you're not dressing in a certain way, a big part of how you look, how you behave is geared around attracting the opposite gender. So all of these kind of pressures come into play. And even the fact that you have groups of young people, whether they're boys and even girls now, they solely group together for the sake of looking at the opposite gender, to actually admire. I'm using a very polite way of terming it, but it reminds me of this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that it was narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas, that a beautiful woman from the tribe of Khatham came asking the verdict of Allah's apostle. Al-Fadr started looking at her as her beauty attracted him. The Prophet looked behind while Al-Fadr was looking at her. So the Prophet held out his hand backwards and caught the chin of Al-Fadl and turned his face to the owner's side in order that he would not gaze at her. This is a serious thing. So what the culture to gaze and look and admire and all of these things that are taking place, these are not allowed in Islam, because our understanding of relationships between men and women is one of respect. It's centered around all of these things. It's about having a healthy relationship in the context of marriage, but that's clearly not the way the relationships are defined. The other thing also that I wanted to sort of touch on, look, it's not a coincidence that you have high teenage pregnancy rates in this country. It's the highest in Europe. And it all comes down to the social interactions as well. They are going to hear about parties. The context is always there. The opportunities are there for the free mixing to take place. So as a parent, we need to discuss with children, the young people, to make them understand the whole, the way the interactions take place. And not like, this is haram, this is halal. Again, not in that kind of context, but try and understand what is the healthy relationship that should exist between a man and a woman. Make them actually rationally understand what is the best way. We know the seriousness of how the interaction between men and women, the fact that it has to be in the context of marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, tell the believing men to reduce to reduce their vision, looking only at what is lawful and averting their eyes from what is unlawful, and guard their private parts from being seen and from unlawful acts. That is pure for them. So it just emphasizes the whole, the importance of having that lawful relationship and the goodness that comes from it. So I think,
absolutely. I think some really good points raised there, and it made me think of your earlier point when you said about playing the haram card for everything like these sorts of issues. So what would you say to parents that are trying to prepare their young adults, their teenagers, to navigate through this?
I spoke to one of my friends last night, and she's a high school teacher, science, head of department, mashallah, of science in a boys' school. And she gave me some excellent advice. She said, look, we have to remember that Adam alayhi salam and Hawa were created in Jannah. A place where you get everything you want, and you're always satisfied, and you don't wait and nothing stops. Then they were placed in dunya as a punishment. So now they're in, it's punishment. It wasn't to compete with Jannah, it was as a punishment. So here, we should be expecting and understanding that our children will not like to hear restrictions, because Adam alayhi salam didn't enjoy it. So when we're saying no, 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 this is not allowed, this is not allowed, this is not allowed, you can't have this, you can't have that, you have to wait, and this is going, you know, this has to stop, it's going to agitate a child. So when we keep saying, discussing in this very kind of like a militant kind of style, this will put the child off and push it away, and they will do things via the back door. So in regards to this social interaction, I think it needs to be made clear from the start that this instinct and this, when the instinct is agitated, this is normal. This is okay. But the instinct needs to be regulated in accordance to the guidance of your creator. So no one's saying that you should have those feelings, that you shouldn't have those feelings, and those feelings are bad, and you need to somehow delete them. Press delete and they will disappear, those are allowed. But it must be made clear. I think one of the things that really satisfies a teenager is if they know that you have a plan for them. So I know that at this age you're going to feel like this, and this is going to, you know, you're going to notice her, and she's going to notice you, and you're going to, whatever, all these things are going to be feeling, That's okay. But in time, this is our plan for you, You will get your pick of the fruit, We'll bring many girls at the right time for you, son, and we will bring many brothers for you, daughter, at the right time, That in itself, I know it sounds really funny, but that in itself can really appease a teenager, that someone is thinking about me, someone is understanding, someone has a plan for me.
It's true. And very much they're kind of in the here and now, and they can't sort of see further than,
if the parents are always saying that, look, you must get your degree and your car and you're this and you're this and you're this, like they're making like this 30-year wait in the child's head, and they're not viewing that child as an individual. Look, the fact is, all our children are different. Some children are going to have very high procreational instinct. They're going to want to get married, and they're going to want to get married young. And it's going to be a strong feeling in them, and it's going to cause misery. It won't harm them, but it's going to cause misery and distraction for them unless you satisfy that. Maybe another one of our kids, will not be that way inclined. They don't mind waiting until they're 30, 35, whatever. We have to look at our children as individuals. All the children of Adam alayhi salam are different. They all are designed differently, So that's the first point. That our children should know that we have a plan for them, that we have an understanding of what they're going through. Second thing, particularly in regards to the social system, everything must be understood that, look, you will have a load of different ways of interacting with the opposite gender offered to you, But everything should be done through the front door. Not the back door, So regardless of whether you met him online, or you saw him in college, or you met him in the workplace, or whatever way you meet them, however the instinct has been agitated, it must be done through the front door. What do I mean by front door? I mean that you understand there is one way. Your father is at the front door, you are behind the door. And he is waiting outside, That's the only way. It doesn't matter how you met or what the feelings are, it's only going to go one way. If the children feel that they can't approach their parents, or their parents are just close the door in this discussion, or they see it as bad, period, that you're forcing the child to take it through the back door now.
No, absolutely. It comes back again to the, the point you made about asking questions, and how this, this dialogue, this two-way dialogue should be encouraged, so that they understand where it's going, and you understand, what they're feeling as well. So some great advice there. Jazakallah khair for that. In recent, months and years even, we've seen an increase in, stories in the media around children as young as 11 being affected by pornography and cyberbullying, and, to some really tragic results, unfortunately. What practical steps are there that we as parents or teachers or support workers that we can guide young people through this situation?
This is a really difficult question. I think for a lot of parents, it's just a case that if I don't think about it, it's not happening, I don't need to deal with it. But the reality is that, pornography and cyberbullying, it happens, and it has a really big impact on children's lives. And we'd be very, very naive and silly to think that our kids are not being exposed to this, because they are. And the question is not whether they're being exposed, but how can we tackle this, and how do we deal with this issue? So, I want to talk about some statistics here. Cyberbullying is a very, very big problem. Over half of teens have experienced cyberbullying. So when you think about that, the reality is that, it's got, the chances are that children are going to come into some form of bullying at some point in their lives, and we have to be able to talk about this with them. We've had just recently in the news the tragic story of a young teenager in Italy who took her own life because she was a victim of cyberbullies, and it echoes the story of Hannah Smith, who she was 14 years old, and she also took her life due to the results of you know, very, very persistent cyberbullying online. So the difficulty for many parents is, how do I tackle this issue? It all comes back to, like Sister Saima, communication. You need to have those doors of communication open for your child. Let them know that it's okay for them to talk about these things with them. You're not going to kind of, you know, flip out and then say to them, no, you know, that's it, I'm sorting this out right now. You know, just have that kind of really calm discussion with them, and let them know that it's okay to feel scared or afraid, and that you're able to kind of just talk to them on the level about what it is that they're feeling. So I think that's really, really important. And, you know, we often hear this phrase, sticks and stones don't break your bones, but words can't. You know, forget all of that, because that doesn't work. You know, cyberbullying, it's a real problem. We need to deal with this.
No, absolutely.
And just to touch on what the sister said,